What is up, everyone? It is Saturday, July 23rd of 2022. Gosh, we're more than halfway through this year. It's so cliche to always say, how does everything move so fast and where does time fly and go? But where does it go? Long story short, welcome back to another family education and support group. My name is Param. I am the person who facilitates this group and the weekly host. Sometimes I come solo, sometimes I come with others, but I always come bearing gifts of recovery and hopefully things that can add value to your life. And when I talk about recovery, it's not just about drugs and alcohol, it's about life. On some level, I believe that all of us are recovering human beings. What's up, Jim? Good morning, my man. I believe that we're all recovering human beings. Some of us might have a problem with substances. Some of us might have a problem with codependency. Some of us might have a problem with spending money. Some of us might have a problem with food. Some of us might have a problem with toxic relationships. What's up, Beta? I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, I think that this channel and this live stream has the ability to kind of provide some information that might help you in your healing and recovery journey. So a few things about myself while we wait for people to roll on and come on in. Like I said, my name is Param. I have a master's degree in marriage and family therapy with an emphasis in child development. I'm a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, so addictive behaviors. I'm a high school basketball coach. That's where I was last week. As you know, I missed the live stream because I was coaching the youth of the youth of today, which are the adults of tomorrow. Just in my little assistant role that I have at Aliso Miguel High School. I'm also in recovery myself from substances and mental health on some level, if you think about it, because it's really rare to find someone that abuses substances doesn't experience any mental health symptoms, anxiety, depression, combination of all the above, since June 13th of 2008. So Mom, Dad, what's up? Cataline, good morning. Cataline, I did email that to you this morning. So, hey, 2 weeks late, but who cares? I got it to you. And today's a really good one. So I believe that anybody that is watching this, what's up, St. John? Looking forward to hearing about your day. I heard you guys might be going to the Getty Museum over there. So go enjoy the heck out of that. It's going to be a very, very, very good experience. I promise you that. The Getty Villa. And they have something on Iranian history this exhibiting right now for a couple months. So the art of Persia. So enjoy that. But for those of you who are here on a weekly basis, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome here for the first time. Today's going to be a good talk. I've edited one of my old talks to kind of create a little fresh twist on it, but it's something that I believe that everybody needs to hear because I believe that everybody is trying to make some type of changes in their life. Everybody at all times is trying to make some type of change in their life. Okay. What type of changes are we talking about here? I don't know. Maybe the change you're trying to make is trying to change the way that you deal with your emotions. Maybe the change you're trying to make is discontinuing the use of addictive substances. Maybe the change you're trying to make is your communication pattern with your loved one. Maybe you're trying to make changes in your codependency. Maybe you're trying to make changes in your health, mind, body, spirit, soul. And here's the thing. Everybody wants to make changes, but not many people can follow through with those changes. Despite of their desire, despite of their need, despite of their want to do so. To show you how hard making changes is in life, there was a study that the American Medical Association published probably in like 2013. So I could probably find the link and put it for you if that helps. But this study demonstrates how hard making changes are. And I'll tell you what it was. Okay. I didn't even have this on my talking points for today. I just want to emphasize this because everyone says, oh, so-and-so is whatever. They should just change what they're doing as if it's like the easiest thing in the world. Everybody can always tell somebody else they need to change. But when it comes to themselves, it's like, it's easier to tell other people to change. But check this out. The American Medical Association published something that was pretty fascinating. And it was from 3,500 participants. So it wasn't like a small sample size of like 100 people, 3,500 people. And what this study found was remarkable. And here's what it was. These 3,500 individuals were referred to this program from their primary care physician or an emergency room. And here's the reason why. The primary care physician said that if you don't change the way that you live your life, if you don't change your diet, your exercise habits, your stress management, you will die. How did they know that? Because there were markers in their blood pressure, in their cholesterol, in their arteries. There was markers there that they could see that this person is at risk for having a stroke or a heart attack, or if they came from the ER, they just had one, right? So these 3,500 people either just came from having a heart attack or were so close to risk that they were referred to this program. What this program wanted to do was to intervene at various different levels. Number one, they wanted to teach them how to change their diets. So hardcore nutritionists every single day. This is like they were there for 30 days inpatient. Change their diet, change their nutritional ways, change their way that their relationship with food, educate them, all that kind of stuff. The next thing that they did was to got them a personal trainer to work in little groups of 3 and 5 to exercise, to get a habit, to keep going and going and going, to be able to really entrench some new habits of like working out. The next thing they did, if they were smoking cigarettes, they helped them with nicotine cessation, get them off the cigarettes, get them stop putting toxins in their body. Then they taught them some stress management. So these people, remember, 3,500 were identified at risk of dying. They intervened on all these different levels, and they also got a mental health therapist, someone like a parm to sit there and talk to them. And they wanted to track these individuals for an entire year of progress to see if they could influence some change. Guess what? At the end of the year, only 5% of those 3,500 people were able to maintain the changes. 5%, that takes you to around 175 people out of 3,500. When the doctors said that if you don't change your life around, you're not going to walk your daughter down the aisle to watch her get married. When the doctor said if you don't change your life around, you're not going to watch your kid graduate. When the doctor said if you don't change your life around, you're going to lose functioning of your bodily, of your limbs. You're going to have another heart attack. You're going to have another stroke if you don't change it. 5% changed. The rest of them didn't. That doesn't tell it that what I want. The reason I say that is because so many people think that individuals who have substance abuse problems and dependency issues are resistant to change. That's BS. Human beings are resistant to change. Human beings are resistant to change. We get stuck in our own ways, and that's just what we do, even when our life depends on it. So hopefully that prefaced this talk to a point. Now I want you to see, how can we make changes that actually last? Like, that's the whole point of this, right? Why the heck would I come here every single Saturday and talk and have all this excitement and enthusiasm and passion if I didn't believe that people can change? I know people can change. I dedicate everything I do to the possibility of human transformation. People like Jim and myself that are in the trenches and the front lines, and we watch someone go from where they are to where they end up. It's like beautiful. That journey is just priceless. And to watch that with families also, priceless. Priceless. So that's why I do this. So today I'm going to talk about how you can change 7 steps you could take to make changes that will last. Okay. And remember, changing your behavior and building habits, it's difficult, like I just said, right? So it seems like a daunting task. It seems like it's overwhelming, but maybe you're just not going about it the right way. Maybe you just don't have the right steps in a specific order to get the certain outcome you want. And because at the end of the day, going to a treatment center or watching something like this is easy. I promise you it is. You know what? Taking apart some time in your Saturday to watch something, it's not the hardest thing in the world to do. Yeah, you have to manage some time and you gotta be able to, prioritize some stuff. Going to the gym or exercising, it is easy. It's not hard to go walk around the block or go to the gym. It really isn't. Everybody starts diets on Mondays. That's easy. I'll start on Monday. I'm not going to start on Saturday and Sunday because, come on. I'll start on Monday. Cracking open a book, that's easy. It really is. But continuing to work on yourself, personal development, introspect work, when this talk's not going on, that's difficult. To continue going to rehab after the rehab's over, continue to keep working on the recovery process, That's difficult. Diets, by Wednesday, when it comes around, you're like, just start next Monday. It gets difficult. Continuing to go to the gym or working out, that's difficult. So why? Let's figure it out. And, a couple of nice comments here. Let's see what Jim said. Change is a continuous daily adjustment. Thank you. To living well. It is daily, man. It really is. Daily reprieve. And Beta, I changed your life for sure. Thank you. I promise you this, that by you, the Betas of the world coming back here to share feedback like that, it also changes my life. So I hope you don't take that lightly. And that's the whole point of this stuff. So here are the 7 steps. Let's just get into it. Step number 1, you ready? Is to own your change. Now, I don't care if you're a family member watching this. I don't care if you're the identified patient or the person struggling with addictions watching this. I don't care if you're, somewhere in between. You have to own your change. What does that mean? You take full responsibility for it. When you say, I want to change, when you say, I want to change something in my life, you got to own it as if it's yours, right? There is nothing wrong with wanting to change for someone else. There's inherently nothing wrong with that. I promise you that. As someone that works with people who are always trying to make changes, 90% of people come in because of an external motivating factor. I share this with you all the time, and that's okay. That's beautiful. There ain't nothing wrong with coming in because of the court system, because of the judge, because of the cop, because of the mom, the dad, the spouse, the child. There's nothing wrong with that stuff. It's beautiful, but just own it. A lot of family members say, hey, my kid came into recovery. I'm working on my communication so I can better communicate with my kid. Just own it. I got bad communication skills and I have to improve on it. So you got to take it. You got to take full responsibility for the change you're trying to make in your life. External inspiration can be a great motivator, right? There's nothing wrong with that. I want you to hear that. As you continue in the process of making changes, eventually you have to come to the point, you have to come to the conclusion that I am making these changes for myself. Like if you're trying to become a better communicator with your loved one so they can have a better recovery process, that's cool in the beginning. Eventually you become a better communicator because you want to become a better communicator. Right? I always say I found these rooms, I found this world, I found all this stuff because my relationship with my parents, my family, I was really hurting them and I was really harming them and I was really scaring them. So when I came in to recovery, it was for them. Because a person that comes into recovery is very depressed, is oftentimes suicidal. It might not be actual suicidal, but suicide of the mind and the soul. They're putting in poisons and toxins in their body because they don't care. Or they care so much they don't know what to do with the emotions. And it took me about 60 days, 90 days to say, oh, this is for me. And family members, you have to get to the same point that you ain't doing this. I went to a family support group that happens every single Thursday in Newport Beach in person, free of charge, by this gentleman named Burr. I talked about him a few times. He's been in the field for 20, 30 years. He's got medical training, he's got nursing background, he's got counseling background, all that kind of stuff. I sat in the room and each individual, there's about 35 people there. They went around and they said the following. They said, my name is so-and-so and I am here for myself. I was like, whoa, that's amazing. Because I guarantee you the first day those people showed up, they would never say they're here for themselves. My name is so-and-so, I'm here for my son. My name is so-and-so, I'm here for my husband, my wife, my friend, my colleague. That's why they were there. But at some point through that family group process, through the work that Burr did and the members themselves did, they say, my name is so-and-so and I'm here for myself. That's as good as it gets. I don't know who Linford is, but Linford, what's up? Gym is my go-to. Health is my number one coping skill. I agree. And I strongly endorse that coping skill. I'm glad that you're able to do that. And for people that might say, I don't have the time, energy, effort to go to the gym, I promise you the same coping skill that Linford is talking about here, walking around the block 30 minutes a day, 7 days a week, can do some phenomenal things for your mind and your body. Don't underestimate the power of consistency. Don't ever underestimate the power of consistency of something small like that. So when you're trying to find out, own your change, you have to ask yourself, what's my why? Okay. Have to ask yourself, what's my why? What are your motivating factors and reasons for wanting to change? A person that does not know their why will not be able to make lasting changes. If your why is something really superficial, it will only make superficial changes. When your why is deep, when your why has meaning, when it has roots, when it has depth, that's when changes start to last. When I was trying to find my why in life, my why right now is, dedicated to the possibility of human transformation. That's my why. When you take on that type of stance in life, the little things in life become easy. When I was trying to find my why, someone turned me on to a book that I talk about all the time, Man's Search for Meaning. In that book, Viktor Frankl is the author of it. Phenomenal book, easy to read, captures you. And it says that when a person knows the why in their life, the how takes care of itself. Like, how am I going to do it? That all takes care of itself when the why comes in. And Martha just backed up what I said and what Linford said about exercise, the best stress release there is. It actually is. And exercise also releases these things called endorphins and neurotransmitters, one of them called dopamine. Dopamine actually does produce elevated mood. It actually does allow us to talk a little bit more freely, to think a little bit more clearly. Dopamine allows us to just feel better. And by the way, lots of drugs of abuse, drugs of choices that human beings use, they release a lot of dopamine, right? So when they talk about that runner's high, I'm not a runner. I believe running could be a very abusive, pattern on the body, especially the more you do it. So I'm not a big running. I'm a big walking guy. It might not release the same dopamine that running does because the level of intensity is much lower. But the runner's high they talk about is actually real. People that run often, run a lot, and run like heavy miles, they actually do release so much dopamine in their body that they feel high, similar to the high produced by certain stimulants. Just keep that in mind. So first one, own your change. What's your why? Step number 2, upgrade your mindset, upgrade your habits. So as a family member or an individual watching this, you got to think of it this way. That does my mindset need to be upgraded? When you look at, for example, these cell phones we have going around, because that's like where an upgrade comes from, the thought of it. Sometimes if the model's old and it's like a previous version of the model, the battery starts to drain. It's not as fast. It doesn't function that well. And you have to go do a software update and it gets a little bit better. And sometimes you got to throw that phone away or, recycle it or give it to someone else that might need it and get yourself a new phone. Our mindset's the same way. A lot of people watching this right now, their mindset is a much, 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 much previous version of themselves. Some of our program participants, I did this talk at 8:30 in the morning for our program participants today. Some of their mindsets are 6 years old. Some of their mindsets are 8 years old, like when they were 8 years old, and they're adults now. They're 20, 25, 30, 35. They got a mindset that's rooted in then and there, in their childhood, in some trauma, in some events, in moving around and divorces and all that kind of stuff that happens to children. Their mindset is stuck there. And right now they're trying to make changes in their life. And they're like, why can't I make these changes? Because they got to upgrade the mindset. Can't function well with an old mindset. And the mindset is like the lens in which you view everything. It's your thoughts, it's your behaviors, it's the way you carry yourself in life. All of that is your mindset. It shapes the experiences that we have. So the question I always ask people when I'm working with them or talking to them is, when did you come up with your mindset? Like who you are, what you believe, what you can and can't do, who you will become. You know what I mean? Like the mindset is so powerful that we got to find out when we created that. And oftentimes people decide who they are a long time ago. Carl Jung, which is my favorite kind of psychology figure out there, Carl Jung, rest in peace. He says the most important question a human being can ask themselves is, what myth am I living? What myth am I living? What does that mean? Because oftentimes we believe things that aren't even true. We believe stories, ideas about ourselves that aren't even true. They're rooted in yesterday and yesteryear, but it's not who we are today or who we can become in the future. So upgrading the mindset is important. And, Henry Ford says, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Do you have any idea how many program participants, their first thought is, I can't. I can't succeed at this job. I can't succeed at sobriety. I can't succeed at school. I can't succeed at our relationships. I can't. Well, guess what? They won't succeed at the job. They won't succeed at school. They won't succeed in a relationship. They won't succeed at recovery. Because whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And eventually the mindset has to change to, I can do this. Let's see what Julian said here, because Julian is a perfect example of someone who his whole life was force-fed the belief and the thought and the idea that he'll never make it. He can't do it. And let's see what he said here, and I'll tell you what he's done here. Habit-forming behaviors can be hard to change if you don't begin the process of identifying them and actively working to change them on a daily basis. The only reason Julian can say something like that is because he's done it. He has broken all of his previous faulty beliefs about himself and who he is in relation to the world, and through tangible action, one day at a time, on a daily basis, has been able to break that. So now there's two versions of Julian. One version is the guy that can't, kind of looking like a gangbanger. The limit of his growth was kind of very, very low. And this other version is this well-spoken, well-articulate human being that has the respect of his peers and the respect of his employers and employees, friends, colleagues. And now there's two versions of him. And which one is he? He's got a choice. He created one because he let go of the previous mindset. Let's see what my mom said here. Attending CODA meetings every single Sunday transformed me, and this is my life commitment. My mom always has a commitment at this meeting, Sundays. CODA, it's Codependence Anonymous. She's been going there for like 14 years now. I used to go to them with her because we were so codependent. This is a true story. Me and my mom were so codependent that I would go to Codependence Anonymous meetings with my mom in early recovery. How funny is that? Yeah, we go there. We sit side by side too, and just kind of, oh man, good times. 14 years ago, we used to go to College Hospital. That's where we used to have them in Costa Mesa. Good times. But yeah, keep going back, Mom. It's good for you. She still has moments of codependency, by the way. It's usually about my hair or my facial hair or something like that. She little hints here and there. But long story short, let's get to the third one here. This next one, this is very important for program participants. So when I talked to him this morning, I said, you got to listen to this one. And it also relates for other people too. But it says you got to go slow to go fast. Go slow to go fast. Warren Buffett, someone that I usually, name off because the reason I like Warren Buffett is because he has accumulated a certain amount of like wealth and that kind of stuff, but he stays really humble. He's got so much humility. It's like a really special hybrid. Usually when they get to that level, their egos kick in and they become like, they forget that they're a part of the human race. Not this guy, And he says the chains of habit are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be broken. And that's a really powerful statement because there's certain things that all of us do that are habits in our life, right? And you don't really feel them. You don't really notice them. You don't really, you're not really mindful or conscious of them until you want to change. And then it's like, oh my God, I can't break these patterns. Those chains become really heavy all of a sudden. So in order to understand this, to go slow, you got to go fast. You have to go slow to go fast. Sorry about that. We got to develop this thing called momentum. And a few of you that have talked to me on the phone, in the past few weeks, that I always talk about momentum a lot, building some positive momentum. Momentum's a powerful thing. We call it the big mo. And for example, if there's a train on a train track and you put a piece of, you put a 2 feet concrete little brick in front of it, just a 2-piece concrete, and it's completely stuck. That concrete will not allow the train to move. That piece of concrete, reinforced concrete, will not allow it to move. It'll just get stuck and it won't be able to start going. However, if the train is going down about 50 miles an hour, 100 miles, whatever the trains go, depending on which ones they are, that same concrete that's on the train track, not only will it not do anything, it'll just slam through it and continue going. It'll break the concrete. Momentum does that. Human beings are the same way. When a human being is not doing anything, the smallest obstacles in life will prevent and inhibit that human being from moving forward. But when someone is moving in life, has some momentum in life, no matter what you put in front of him or her or them, it will shatter it and continue going through. That's the power of momentum. And how do you build momentum? It comes from these things called MVCs, minimal viable changes. The smallest changes you can imagine over an extended period of time will create momentum. A 10-minute walk, 1-minute meditation, 5 pages of a book, replacing one of your meals with fruits, vegetables, something super healthy. The smallest things you can imagine can make big changes that can build momentum, that can get you moving forward. What happens is this: most people who want to make changes, they want to make changes and they want to make them now. They want to go from where they are to where they want to be without having to go through that process of building new habits, right? Let's see what Cataline said here. When I started recovery, it was a huge bite of change to swallow, for sure. But I think I broke it down to smaller ones. Yep, that's exactly it. And this way I can continue to grow. So absolutely. And by the way, that never ends, because there's always something in your life you want to change. And if you want to change something, that means that you might not have the ability to maintain it with your current abilities. You know what I mean? Because if you did, you wouldn't have to change it in the first place. So you got to have compassion for yourself to say, hey, I got to be patient. You got to take it slow and to continue taking on. And yes, Martha, small increment changes, the MVCs, they make changes easier. Because why do we need to make changes easier? Because changing's hard. Whatever we can get to make it easier helps. And absolutely, I appreciate you guys backing that up. So the next one, I think this one's my favorite one of the ones that I'm talking about. I mean, I always like talking about the why and stuff, but this one's really important, I think, for me. I just like it as someone who's a minimalist. So number 4 says to replace existing habits with new ones. Okay, now I want to tell you why this one's important. So listen up to this. Bruce Lee, which is someone that we all pretty much know about or have seen in movies and stuff like that, and he passed away young too, but Bruce Lee, he said it's not the daily increase, but a daily decrease. Hack away at the inessentials. So a lot of people, they want to add to their life in order to make changes. They want to add more and add more and add more and add more. And there's nothing wrong with that at first. On surface level, it's like, okay, well, they're trying to do all these new things. It's good. But here's what happens when you add and add and add and add. There is a possibility of burnout. There's a possibility of taking on too much. There's a possibility of getting resentful. There's a possibility of just stagnating and regressing. So why is it more important to decrease? Because every person watching this right now, I know for a fact that you can identify things in your life that you can strip away and strip away and strip away the inessentials, the ways you occupy your time, the way you occupy your energy that you know is not going to anything. When you take those away, guess what happens? You just created time to add the new things. I mean, our bucket in life is a certain amount. And when there's life stuff happening, when people are passing away, like some of you have experienced losses, when there's financial struggles, when there's pandemics, when there's just stuff that go on in life, there's only a certain bucket we have. And when you add to that, eventually it's going to overflow and it's not going to be good. And that's what a lot of people do. For example, when they come into the program, for those who are struggling with addictions, at least, they tell them to go to all these meetings. They tell them to go call all these people, do all these steps, do all this work, do all these treatment programming, do all this kind of stuff, look for a job, do everything you got to do. And they, you know what? Bless their heart. People try their best and they do it. But eventually what happens is at some point they stop going to the meeting, they stop calling the sponsor, they stop doing this, they stop doing that because they get overwhelmed and burned out. So here's a better way to deal with it. Take away a bunch of the inessentials, create some time so when you add those things, you're still in balance. Momentum in recovery takes time. This is a fact. I'm realizing these days I have to exercise patience 100%. And that's I think momentum in anything takes time, actually. I don't think it's just in recovery. I think momentum, by definition, something needs to start moving after it has been stopped, right? So the initial push of something that's been stopped, and sometimes stopped for days, weeks, months, years, decades. If something's been stopped for a decade, you can't just push it to go. It's going to take a force of a village almost, just putting, backs against it and pushing it and doing whatever they can to get it going. And eventually when that object starts to move, physics kicks in. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion. And it takes patience for it to start going. You're absolutely right about that. Patience is the word that we should always focus on in these recovery worlds. But that's a very good point right there. I like it. And here's the thing, even adding too much of a good thing without taking some bad things can lead to exhaustion and burnout. So if you even add a bunch of good things to your life, but you never stop to take away the things that are draining your vitality, your energy, your source, all that kind of stuff, it could lead to burnout. My best definition that I have for discipline, which I've shared with you many times, is this. Discipline is the following: doing what you know you need to do, even when you don't want to do it. It's not even when you don't want to do it. Most importantly, when you don't want to do it. That's discipline. Anybody can do the things they want to do. It's like, okay, that's fun. But can you do the things you don't want to do when you know you need to do them? Can you do those things? And that's discipline. And that for sure needs patience. That for sure takes discipline. That for sure takes time to be able to get into that moment. Anybody that's watching this that has some type of success in your life, whatever profession that you've gone down the path, for a fact, in order to get there, you had to make some sacrifices and do a lot of things that you didn't want to do. You had to sacrifice a lot of time you didn't want to sacrifice. And you understand it at that level. Now, check this out. You did that with your profession. What if I'm here telling you that with your communication, that with your emotion regulation, that with your stress management, all of that same principles applies. You got to do things you don't want to do. That's what people, and when it comes down to it, that the study that I started off with, the 3,500 people that had all the reasons in the world to change the way they live because doctors are telling them that they can't, in the beginning of this talk, go watch that. At the end of the day, they didn't want to exercise. They didn't want to change their diet. They didn't want to do the mental health counseling. They didn't want to do all those things. And guess what? They didn't do them. But the 5% that did, they probably didn't want to do it at all times, but they did it for a year and their lives got better. So number 5, and there's only 7 of these, is to get an accountability partner. Accountability is the glue that bonds commitment and results. Okay, commitment and results. So everybody's committed to do something. Everybody's looking for some type of results they want. Why are people that are committed unable to get the results? Because they lack accountability. They lack accountability in the middle. That's it. That really is it. And it's there's studies out there that says when you have a goal and you have a time frame and you have actionable steps, at best 50% of people can accomplish those without accountability. But they say when you increase daily accountability to that, it goes up to 90% success rate. I mean, just think about that. One's a coin toss and the other one's like pretty much guaranteed you're going to get it done or something relatively close to it. And you always want to get help from someone who's been there, done that, understands it, knows the way, shows the way, knows what to do. Accountability is big. I can't. That's why in programs, 12-step programs, they always talk about having commitments, some type of a commitment you have to a group of people that keeps you accountable to that meeting. Most people that have commitments at some point in meetings raise their hand and say, there was no way I was going to be here today, but I know I had a commitment. I know I was accountable to this group. I've heard that 1,000 times in meetings, and I'm not exaggerating that. Probably have. So the next one right here, number 6, is design the right environment. So here's a good minimalist Zen quote for you. Control your clutter, or your clutter will control you. Okay? Control your clutter, or your clutter can control you. So when you talk about clutter, some people think about the physical space around you. That is very important, by the way. The physical space you have around you. I'm not saying it has to be completely aesthetically minimalistic and there's got to be nothing there, because everybody has different preferences. Everybody has different, the way that they like to experience their space. So I'm not saying anything there. There's no like gold standard to this. But whatever it is, you want it to be as possible clutter-free. The more clutter physically, it also starts doing things to us psychologically, emotionally. Because clutter just does not live at the level of things. Clutter also exists in our mind, right? What are some examples of clutter in your mind that can really, really mess up your ability to change? Well, unmade decisions. Have you ever had a bunch of decisions you have to make and you haven't made them and you just feel overwhelmed? Unmade decisions are a form of clutter. Unfinished business, things you know you need to get done and you haven't done yet. Those are clutter. It's clutter that occupies your energy, your mind. Toxic relationships. If you have a bunch of toxic relationships in your life and you're not doing anything about them, that's clutter. Clean them up. Clean them up. And anything that's a to-do list. To-do lists are freaking clutter. Go finish them, cross them off, do something with them, right? And distracting oneself with tasks can be clutter. 100%. Yeah, it's, I believe here, Martha, this is good, because I've been guilty of this one, right? So at some point we've become human doings. Like we lost the whole ability of being human being, and we become human doings. And sometimes we just put these mundane tasks that we're always like, we feel like we're doing stuff, like we're being like activity and productivity are completely different things. You can be really, really active, but not produce anything, right? The goal is to produce things in life. And I do believe that there's nothing wrong with having to-do lists and doing them, but with intention, right? Not just to do them, just to distract ourselves, because, that doesn't do anything. But for sure, it's an important fact right there. And so clutter can be in people. It could be places. It could be things. Just remove them all. You know how good it feels when you, like, let's just say you have a junk drawer, right? Everybody has one of those junk drawers in their house that just everything goes thrown in it. And you just clean it up one day and just make it completely empty. It's like, Or we do the spring cleaning. I know Iranians do spring cleaning. It's like you legitimately clean the house from inside out. And it's like the next feeling is like, wow, I feel so good, right? Or you go through your emails and you just clean them all up. And it's like, wow, my inbox is so clean. We know these kind of tasks we do that feel phenomenal. Now imagine doing the same thing for the mind. Finish the to-do list, unfinished business, right? Just get it all done. Unmade decisions. Make some decisions. See how good that relief feels. And be deliberate. This is important. Be deliberate with who, what, where you bring into your life. Like once you clean things out, don't just replace it all back with the same stuff. I said this to the program participants this morning, and I will say this 100,000 times. If you change your life around and you bring back the same people, places, and things that existed in your previous life will repeat itself again. Your previous life will come back again. I don't care how strong-headed you are. I don't care how much intention you have or commitment you have to changing your life. If you bring things in from your past life will repeat itself. Jim is, I think this is a running joke that I have with this group. Jim's been, obviously I've been working with him for 6 years, and he watches these, 2.5 years he's been watching these, and he's heard me talk a lot of times, but I go through, so I've designed the right environment, right? And I go through this whole thing about clutter, and I go through this whole tangent and side talk, and I go through this and that and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And at the end of it, Jim always gives a 1 or 2 or 3 word sentence that summarizes my 17-minute tangent. And pretty much what I was trying to say, by saying what I said was what Jim just said right there, just to keep it clean. Keep your mind, your life, your soul, your energy, just keep it clean. And don't allow anything to come in to throw dirt at it, Let's see what Hossein said here. Having a daily to-do list has helped me focusing on important things in my life on a daily basis. It is actually one of the tools used by highly successful people is having a to-do list. The best time to write a to-do list, in my opinion, doesn't have to be what you do, Hossein Jump, but for me, is always to write the to-do list the night before. And why does that do? Because first of all, it relieves the clutter. It allows us to put our head on the pillow with a little bit of relief. And in the morning when you wake up, you don't have to think, what do I need to do today? What needs to get done? The night before, you already figured that one out. So in the morning when you wake up and you start your day routine, you already have a blueprint of action steps to take that day. It's already there. Now, can you add to it? Of course you can add to it. But at least you got a premise. So because most people wake up in the morning, their first thought is not like, okay, what do I need to get done today? The first thought people have in the morning is like, it's the morning, I need some coffee. Wow, I'm running late. At that point, you already lost the day. But if you start with a blueprint, it's a good way to go. And it's easier to keep it clean than, this is, in the program, by the way, we say it's easier to stay sober than to get sober. Like we say that all the time. Staying sober is a hell of a lot easier to get it sober. But in this kind of a play with words that Jim said here, it's easier to keep it clean than having to continue to clean it. So when you do a inventory in the program, you do a 4th step, and you go and you kind of clean away your wreckage of your past, and you do an 8th and 9th step, and you make right with people you've harmed. Then there's this thing called the 10th step, right? So it's like sometimes people don't get to all these steps, but there's this thing called a 10th step, which on a daily basis, you constructively review your day. Were you resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid today? Do you owe an apology to anyone? Have you made it, or do you plan on making it? The whole point of that daily inventory 10th step stuff is to keep it clean. The whole point of it is to keep it clean. There's no other point for that 10th step is to keep it clean because you've already done the work, right? So good point there. And the last one we have here is one habit at a time. So, in the program, we say one day at a time. Here, I'm saying one habit at a time. So many people try to change so many things all at once. And guess what? They fail. And I'm not saying that you're going to fail. If you want to go change 7 things in your life all at once, feel free to. But the odds of succeeding are really low. For example, learning one foreign language is hard work to do as an adult. Very, very hard work. The younger you are, the more your brain's just, I don't know what it is, but the older you are, the harder it is to learn a language. Now, imagine learning 3 languages at once. Imagine learning 3 languages at once. It's probably impossible, right? So, and I know that's not really impossible because someone out there has learned 3 languages at once. But for us common folks, learning 3 languages at once is pretty much impossible. Now, if you can understand and grasp that analogy, just think that you go through, make changes in life, and you try to change 3 things at once. Man, it's just not going to happen. Focus on one and get it done. Don't move on to the next one until you finished one. Steve Jobs, which I really like. No, I don't really like the way, he somehow talked or treated people and stuff like that. I just liked how the visionary mind that he had. I just appreciate that. And he did a lot of nice things for people behind closed doors. People didn't hear about those. They only highlighted the parts that he was kind of, a little bit weird. But I'll tell you this about Steve Jobs. He said focusing is about saying no, right? So people always think if I focus on something, it's sometimes focusing about like what not to focus on. Like not focusing on something is a form of focusing. Because by default, if I don't focus on the things that mess me up, then I'm going to have more time, energy, effort to focus on the things I want to. Let's see what Eileen said. Sometimes removing mind clutter does not make others comfortable, and then there is an intentional or unintentional clutter of guilt. Wow, that's deep. Directed to us. Changing that pattern of allowing guilt, and when we know the change is for our own best interest, takes strength. Absolutely. When we're doing stuff, by the way, Eileen, you do it for yourself first and foremost, period. What other people do experience, for example, the guilt, all that stuff, you've heard this before. It really isn't any of your business. It's on them. It's their own journey, their own path to figure all that out. And I wish I could figure it out for them, or you could figure it out for them, but you can't. But here's the thing. When you clear out that mind clutter for yourself and you get that relief, you feel better. And we deserve to feel better. We're not always supposed to be, our mood is not supposed to be contingent on the mood of other people. I mean, that's that is codependency. That if your emotions and your mood is contingent on other people's level of comfort or discomfort, that is codependency. It's not even related, right? So that's some great insight right there. I appreciate that. So the homework is this, and I have it written in the notes of this talk. So the homework is, I want you to go identify one area in your life that you're trying to change. Now, I don't care if it's for external reasons. I don't care if it's for internal reasons, or a combination of both. Oftentimes is one area in your life you're trying to change. You know, your communication, your boundaries, your emotion regulation, your codependency, your addiction, your spending habits, whatever it is. Identify who you're making it for, right? So self or others, you know, and whatever the reason is, you got to own it. Like, I'm making this change because I'm making this change. I want to make this change, right? Dig and find out your why. And then you need to look at your mindset around that, right? So what's your mindset around that change? Like, when you think about that specific item you're trying to change in your life, what's your mindset? When did you create it? Who created it for you? How long have you had that mindset? Are you tired of that mindset? Are you ready to upgrade that mindset? And then you want to examine your habits in that area. Man, just write it all down. Write down all the habits you have in that area. Sometimes you might put things down like, hey, I'm lazy. I give up too quick. Like, my emotions get in the way and I just forget about it. You know, whatever your habits are, you have your habits. You know them better than I do. Write them all down. And then remember that you have to go slow to go fast. Make some minimal viable changes in that area. Whatever it is, take some small steps in that area that is going to allow you to build some momentum. Even if it doesn't make sense at first, just do some small things. And then it's to immediately get an accountability partner. Like, as soon as you got that down, to get an accountability partner, I don't care who it is, someone that has what you're trying to do, has accomplished it, and just say, hey, I'm trying to make these changes in my life. I need some help. Find an accountability partner. And then you got to design your optimal environment for success. You got to clear the clutter. People, places, and things. Whoever it gets in the way of your success, you got to cut them out while you're trying to make this goal. I'm not saying cut them out forever, right? Make yourself a goal that's like 3 or 6 months and say, hey, this toxic friend of mine that always comes in and gossips and always comes in and just takes away my vitality. If I'm working on my communication skills, I can't be talking to this person because they'll suck you down to that level. If you're trying to get clean and sober and you got a buddy that's always drinking or smoking weed, and you got to say, I got to cut this person out, right? If you know a certain someone in your life triggers you to the point that you can't handle it right now, stop engaging to that person while you work on this stuff. So maybe one day you go back and you're able to engage with them. And go one goal at a time. Do not move on to the next goal until you finish the first one, please. You don't want to be a person that starts 5 things and finishes none. I would rather have someone that can start one thing and finish it than have someone that can start 17 things and finish none of them. Starting stuff is easy, my friends. Everyone starts things. Nobody finishes them. Finish it. And by the way, that the moment that you accomplish something, that sense of accomplishment feels good. Feels good. It builds self-esteem. And what area in your life will you transform? So that's the magic. That's the magic. Like, I'm going to transform in this area. And if you don't want to do it right now, this is the only thing I ask is, if not now, when? That's the only thing I ask. If you go through that assignment and say, you know what, I'm not willing to get an accountability partner. I'm not willing to clear the clutter. I'm not willing to do the work. I'm not willing to finish the task. That's okay. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But if not now, when? So you got to put that date. Is it going to be tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, next decade? It's not my place to judge when you choose to do that. That's a personal decision. But you got to say when, because if there is no when involved, it'll never happen. Ever. People think something in their life is going to change without like taking some action steps in the present moment to make it change. It's delusional thinking. It's like magical thinking, right? So if not now, when? And answer that question for yourself. So daily, my first action is getting up on time without hitting the snooze button because there is no time to snooze. You're absolutely right about that. And Jim's not exaggerating here. Jim, Buckeye Recovery Network, we open at 9 a.m. is when our IOP center starts. And Jim and also Counselor Tony, I'll give him a shout out too. Man, those guys are there like 5:30 in the morning. What are you guys doing here? I don't know. But they're there at 5:30 in the morning. And it's they're just, man. And you know what? Only a person that understands the power of not hitting that snooze button and just getting up because there's no time to snooze can do that consistently. Now, if Jim was someone that shows up at 5:30 in the morning here and there and there, and it's like, all right, well, he's trying. Man, I don't think he's ever like not been there in 6 years of that time. So you wear your actions on your sleeves, that's for sure, my man. Anyways, this was a really good talk. This was helpful to not just those with addictions. It's helpful for human beings. So if you got some value out of it, participate like you always do. Write some comments. Say what your takeaway was. If you want to share it, just share the link with whoever you want on your Facebook. I have no problems with that. I want more people to get exposed to this information and maybe join us. All that being said, happy Saturday. Love and appreciate you. And I will see you same place, same time next week. And we'll go from there. If you have any topics, put them in the comment section. I will cover them next week. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.